I now know what you've known for decades, that children like my son are capable, that their lives have meaning, and most importantly, that they deserve a life like anyone else. Because of the work that you all do, my son's future is bright. His options are many, and his prospects are strong. I'm not naive enough to think that he doesn't face very real challenges, but I am confident that when he is old enough to work, the public system will support him rather than hold him back. That message is precisely why our keynote speaker is perfect for this conference. In full disclosure, Chris Taylor is a very good friend of mine, and we met on our first day of business school when we were placed in the same cohort group. If any of you have ever experienced a forced cohort group, that means you're stuck in a room several hours a day to work on group projects, presentations, and papers. There's nothing worse than a group paper. And you have to work with them all year, whether you like them or not. And sometimes you really don't. But within about 5 minutes, Chris and I realized we were from the same hometown, Buffalo, New York, and that, Buffalo, and that we work really well together. Chris is one of those people who believes that anything is possible, not because he's naive, but because he truly believes in the power of people to come together around common values, shoulder to shoulder, work hard, and persevere. Chris spent 14 years in the U.S. Marine Corps as an enlisted infantryman and Force Recon Marine. He earned his bachelor's degree at night while on active duty. He earned an MBA from the College of William and Mary and an MPA from the Harvard Kennedy School. Chris is a veteran, a global business leader, an entrepreneur, and founder of CEO of Novitas Group, a Department of Veteran Affairs disabled veteran-owned small business that uses a unique talent opportunity matching platform to assist veterans in their search for meaningful employment in their communities of their choice. Chris is also an adjunct professor of national security studies at Georgetown School of Foreign Service, and where he teaches the business of national security. Please welcome my friend Chris Taylor.
Are we good? Okay. I just violated a rule. Are there any Marines in the room? Okay, typically, how's it going, Devil Dog? So you'll understand, typically when Marines hear the Marines hymn, we're supposed to stop where we are and stand at attention until it's over. I failed that because I wanted to hug Allison instead, so I hope I get, I don't get in trouble for that. Good morning, and thank you for having me. As Allison said, one of the things that we work on is how do we get veterans who have served their country, who have served well, into meaningful work into the communities of their choice. That might sound simple. We also work on specifically how we get veterans with disabilities to find meaningful work in communities of choice. So what I'd like to do this morning is sort of level set everything with just some numbers first about what the veteran numbers are in the United States. Okay, so in these beautiful United States of America, there are about 320 million people. Of those 320 million people, 22 million are veterans. Roughly 7% of the population today in the United States are veterans. The overwhelming majority, I should say the majority, not overwhelming majority, is actually over the age of 65. Think about that. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, that's when we had our most people serving, and then we had a big break before we were involved in any other sort of conflict until Iraq and Afghanistan. So about 7% of the population. But that 7% has served in World War I, they've served in World War II, they served in Korea, They served in Vietnam. They served in the first Gulf War in the 90s, early 90s. And they served and continued to serve in the current conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so this morning, this is the population that I'd like to focus on. It's not that the rest of the population, veteran population, is without need. It's that this population now has real need. Are there any other veterans in the audience? Rockstar. Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about this population. To date, about 2.7 million people have served in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's less than 1% of the current American population. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the public policy and social challenges that provides when we try to speak of the civilian-military relations, but it's not a lot. It's just not a lot. To date, about 6,800 people serving in those two wars have been killed. About 52,000 have been wounded, became ill, or injured. Almost 1,600 became amputees because of their service. 307,000 and some change cases of traumatic brain injury. The overwhelming majority of those are diagnosed as mild, but they do certainly run the spectrum. 165,000 people have been diagnosed with PTSD or PTSI. There is some discussion in the veteran community about what to call post-traumatic stress. Some people think that if you end it with disorder, it makes it sound like that person had that disorder before they joined the military and it wasn't caused perhaps by service. Other people like to say post-traumatic stress injury because it was caused through service. Every year, about 250,000 people leave the military, roughly. 250,000 people. And for those of you who don't know, the Department of Defense invests more money in members of the military for skills development, character development, and leadership development than any other organization on the planet by a scale of a bajillion, right? It's enormous how much money we put into folks in the military, which is odd, right? Because then you have to wonder if that's the case. By the way, every year, it's either Pew or Gallup puts out a poll that ranks Americans' confidence in institutions, right? And routinely, the U.S. military is at the top of that list, and they were again this year with 78 out of 100 confidence points. Does anyone in this room want to take a wild guess who is at the bottom of the list? Say it out loud, don't be afraid. Well, I would say that it's the people who don't do what you just said who are at the bottom of the list. Congress. Congress got a score of, wait for it, 8. I had to practice saying that without laughing, right? That's just amazing to me. So if we know that that the institution itself, the military, is rated at the top of this rating every year, if we know that we invest so much money in them, in skills development and character and leadership development, if we know that this is an amazing population of people, why are they still at 5.7% unemployment? Right? So let's be fair. The overall unemployment rate in America is roughly 5.6, 5.5, 5.7. We move within a couple of points each month. But follow my logic here a little bit. If you're a person in whom so much investment has been made, shouldn't that number be like 0.6? Shouldn't businesses be clamoring to hire people who've been invested in so much? One would think. The other thing, the statistic that is just scary, and this stretches across the communities of people with disabilities. It's an ugly word. I hate it. I'm sure you do too. Underemployment. Underemployment. So here we're talking about people who have a tremendous set of skills, but instead are working in a job that pays them far less than they're worth and has them not realizing their full potential of skills. 40%. Underemployment, as much in unemployment, ultimately wears on a person's dignity, ultimately wears on a person's confidence. Okay, and what ends up happening is we have all of these veterans who are now trying to look for work out there, and we have 2 million organizations, everybody trying to help. Everybody's patriotic. Yay, veterans, let's hire them all. Except I still have people who look like this. And the reason I do, the reason that we all do, is because a series of myths that follow veterans into the business world. So let's talk about some of the myths with regard to veterans. Veterans only take orders. They can't think or do anything on their own. Okay, the fact is, initiative is one of the basic tenets of military leadership. Imagine this for a second. You're serving in the military, you're somewhere outside the United States, you're engaged in some sort of conflict, it starts to happen, nothing's going according to plan, but you have to continue to survive. One would imagine that initiative to get something done is part of this, and it is. It's actually one of the Marine Corps' leadership principles. It's an amazing thought. Why do we think that military people are so rigid? We'll talk about that. Many veterans, particularly our enlisted veterans, don't have degrees, so they aren't qualified to do our work. Okay, if you will permit me just a couple of minutes to go on a bit of a rant, I will control it because it's being filmed. The fact that we use whether or not you have a college degree as one of the foundational determinants as to what you can provide an organization is now today ridiculous. I have so many friends, Allison and I both have friends, so many friends who went to, I'm not going to pick a school because that will offend somebody. Let's call it the University of, I didn't do a whole bunch. University of, I drank every day. Just so I don't offend anybody, and you know who you are. Let's say I went there and I graduated with a 2.0 GPA. Should that piece of paper that I got after, well, maybe in this person's case, 7 years of pursuit of a degree, should that somehow be used to gauge whether or not I'm going to be a valuable asset to my organization? No, it's ridiculous. It is an archaic way that recruiters and talent management systems sort people. We're bucketed. Every single day, we're bucketed into something. You have a degree, you don't have a degree. You have this much experience. Here's the other thing. Years of experience. Ridiculous. What if I have some whiz kid that knows everything that person's supposed to know with 2 years experience versus somebody who's been around for 13 or 14 years experience? And this kid offers far more value going into the future. I think what we do in a country where there's 5.4 million open jobs, I think we do a horrible job of bringing the talent that we have right here in America into the workforce, to include particularly the community of people with disabilities. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I just want to share this stat with you because I dig it. 15% of Google's employees don't have degrees. This isn't people working in the mailroom. This is people hacking away on Google Chrome, on Google Cloud. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have a dear friend who just went over and took over Google Cloud. This is real folks who have real skills. We are now in an economy where it's knowledge and performance-based, not what pedigree do you have. And look, take this for what it's worth, I went to Harvard. Who cares? That doesn't mean that I did anything great. What are we talking about? Veterans are too rigid. Military members are too stoic. And that's not good for my culture, my business culture. What I'd like you to do is just take a moment to read the words on the screen. When you read these words, do you think that those words came from somebody who doesn't have passion, who doesn't have emotion, who doesn't care, or who might not fit into a strong business culture? Doug Zembeck wrote those words in a series of letters to his wife and to his men. I know Doug. He was a student of mine for 13 weeks in the Marine Corps. Doug was killed on May 10th, 2007. I wish we had more Dougs who speak truth to power, who want to empower everyone around them, who want to bring people to greatness instead of separate them and segregate them into buckets because it's more comfortable to do so. That's not what we do in the Marine Corps. That's not what we do in the military. There's no draft day in the military. You work with the hand that you've got. And if more businesses took the time to develop people, all people in their communities, so that they could be part of the community and they could be integrated into the business, we'd be in a much better place. Veterans with disabilities require me to spend a lot of money on new accommodations. Is there anybody in the room who already doesn't know that that's just, I was going to say a word that rhymes with full it, but I won't because, again, we're on camera. So thank you, camera, for saving me. What? What? In the veteran community, work community, 90% of veterans with disabilities don't require any additional accommodations. Let me tell you why. If you meet a veteran with a disability and even imply to that person that they have a disability, we're going to fight. They're going to fight. They're going to say, I'm not, what are you talking about? I don't have a disability. I'm fighting with different resources. Right? And isn't that what we're doing? We're making our way with different talents and different resources. The idea that somehow, and so I was telling, accommodations are, because accommodations don't only benefit people with disabilities, they benefit everyone. And the cost of an accommodation isn't necessarily with per person. It's one accommodation that benefits everyone. I think it's a ridiculous thing. I was saying today yesterday when we checked into the hotel, I had my bag and my computer bag, and I was walking in, and there's a big revolving door, and look, I'm one of those guys that should not be in a revolving door with luggage. Okay? I'm just not that guy. So what was available to me, or what was available, was an automatic door. Was an automated door that allowed the door to open and I could go in without looking like the disaster that I was. And if I was a person with a disability sitting in the lobby and I saw me come through the door like that, I'd look at me and say, "You're welcome." How about that? It's ridiculous to think that accommodations are only for people with disabilities. History shows that that's just not the case. And why is it? Because we focus on cost before we focus on value. It's what people do. This is going to cost me $1. Oh my goodness. But we can't get ourselves to move past the thought that says it's going to cost me $1, but this person who will benefit from the accommodation as well as many others is going to give back to the business, I don't know, $1 gazillion. Like, it's easy business math. We need to continue to do it. I'm going to show you just a couple of videos this morning, and I wanted to provide just some, but they could be well-known examples. You may know these examples, but I think they're good to revisit. The soldier on the right, his name's Noah Galloway. In 2005, a week before Christmas, Noah was hit by an IED, an improvised explosive device in Iraq. He lost his left arm and his left leg. And one of the things that I would ask you to consider when we talk about the veterans with disabilities is that 99% weren't born with that disability. It's a disability that happened to them through, generally speaking, a catastrophic event and everything that goes with that. So Noah on the right lost his left leg and his left arm. And not unlike the other 1,575 soldiers and Marines who also suffered from that. But Noah decided to do something different. He admits that he went through a time where he was like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. But he got out of that funk. And if you're not aware, let me just show you. So Noah went on Dancing with the Stars. Noah made it all the way to week 20. But I just wanted to show you this part of the video of what Noah decided what he could do just because he decided he could do it.
I don't do it for the money. There's bills that I can't pay. I don't do it for the glory. I just do it anyway. And I will always do my duty, no matter what the price. I counted up the cost. I know the sacrifice. Oh, and I don't want to die for you. But if God's asking me, I'll bear that cross with honor. 'Cause freedom don't come free. I'm an American soldier, an American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I will proudly take a stand. With liberty in jeopardy, I will always do what's right. I'm out here on the front lines, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American. Noah and Sharna.
Give it up for Noah. Noah didn't win, he came in third. But I think we just saw a perfect example of someone saying, I don't even acknowledge necessarily that I am different from what people typically see when they walk down the street. This is what I want to do. Over the course of the last 10, 15 years, particularly in the veterans employment space, we've relied a lot on patriotism. And for many people, it moves them. And there's many great companies out there who have done some unbelievable work in bringing veterans, particularly veterans with disabilities, into the workforce. You really can't say enough about what Starbucks and Howard Schultz has done. If you've done any research or care to, just read what he's doing right now. It's amazing. Certainly Walmart has been bringing people into the organization. There's lots of organizations who are following suit. But here's the problem. We had lots of organizations who sort of picked up on the patriotic theme and used it as a marketing tool instead of really bringing veterans and veterans with disabilities into their organizations. And that's just sort of it is what it is, right? Because if somebody's standing in front of you saying, I love veterans, I love America, there's flags all over the place, I'm going to hire a bunch, and at the end of the year they hire 10% of what they said they were going to hire, but they're still like, we love veterans, we're still working on it. Like, where does the conversation go, right? Well, with me it goes a very specific place, but you know, generally speaking, people are like, And here's what I think. The thing that, let's get down to it. The thing that matters to business is the business case. That's it. And that's good, right? We live in a society where it's not really a free market because we have all kinds of different regulations. Some people think we need more, some people think we need less, but generally speaking, we work in a free market. And at the end of the day, businesses are in business to make money. Nonprofits are doing what they do to continue to make at least enough money to continue to do what they want to do. That has to be born from some sort of great work or activity. So what we have done is focused on the business case to hire veterans and veterans with disabilities. So let's have okay. I'm going to show you another quick video. Has anybody here read Randy Lewis's book, No Greatness Without Goodness? You have? It's an amazing book, right? It's an amazing story. So I see lots of you probably either haven't read it or, so I'm just going to show you a little bit about Randy Lewis. So Randy just retired. He's a former senior vice president of global logistics and supply chain for Walgreens. And I'll let Randy tell his own story here for you.
With every box that's opened, every button that's pressed, and every crate that's sorted, employees at this Walgreens distribution center in Windsor, Connecticut are breaking down barriers. Just ask Julie Williard.
It's my dream to work here. It is okay to be yourself, and it's okay to be deaf, and it's okay to have disabilities while you work.
More than 40% of the people working here report having a disability.
When you have autism like I have, it's tough to overcome it when you work, and when you get better at it, then you pick up the pace and you go from there.
I may have a seizure. It will cause me to fall backward.
This is something that you think has held you back in the past?
Yes, it has.
The thing that makes this building different is that people are accepted. That's okay. Everyone is working right next to each other. 80% of this department is people with disabilities, and you really can't tell one from the other.
And that's the point.
Did this idea also come out of something personal in your life?
Certainly. I mean, I have a son with autism who is now 23.
For Walgreens' Randy Lewis, what began as an experiment has been a revelation for the company, which now plans to introduce Lewis's program in its retail stores.
We sell people with disabilities short. We think their abilities are like this. What we found is they're much broader.
Equality is at the core of Walgreens' inclusive hiring policy. Equal pay, equal work, and equal expectations, sometimes with a little help to make sure everyone can meet those expectations.
If you look up here at this workstation, we have a picture of a cow. So this whole department is called the zoo. This is station 11, but if I don't know numbers, 11 doesn't mean anything to me. So we name it the cow station as well.
The special accommodations cost the company less than $25 per worker. And Lewis says workers with disabilities have fewer workplace accidents, lower absenteeism, and lower turnover than people without disabilities.
It's the people without disabilities to realize that we are a community, that we're part of something bigger. Yes, we're capitalists and we have to serve our shareholders, but we have to serve each other in our community.
Allison Cossack, CNN, Windsor, Connecticut.
So here's what I'm going to say. All of you who do advocacy work, all of you who, like my dear friend Allison, who are trying to convince people on Capitol Hill to do things differently, download that clip, take it to them, make them sit there and watch it. You just got 2.5 minutes worth of the business case. By the way, I should point out, the plant that they just showed is actually up in Connecticut. It's the second plant that they opened because they had such great success with the first plant that they opened in South Carolina, where 40% of the South Carolina plant was managed, not just staffed, managed and staffed by people with disabilities. That's it. Take it to them. Walgreens has amazing market power, right? Has amazing market power. They don't have to do anything. They don't if they're interested in making $1. They just don't. But they chose to, and they set a fine example for everyone else. If this can happen in South Carolina, it can happen in Connecticut, it can happen in every town in the United States of America. And for those of you who are interested in the book, that's what it looks like. I'll just leave it up there just for a second for you if you're interested. I'm sure you'll find it, but it's a great book. And really, Randy's kind of an inspirational cat. I mean, he's no nonsense, sort of down home, give me data, give me the facts, and let's move out. And his moving out changed the way one of the largest, by the way, Walgreens is a $62 billion company, and my wife tells me that they just bought all of Target's pharmacies. No? Oh, my wife told me the right thing, I said the wrong thing. That's me protecting myself right there so that I don't get in trouble later on. Okay, but here's the other cool thing. So what we just saw was an example of bringing people with disabilities into a workforce successfully and driving the business to success. That's one side of the coin of business. The other side, and the side that I'm always involved in, is the entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial spirit, right? People who say, I don't want to work for anyone else, I want to own my own stuff and run it. Do people know Tim Harris? Have you seen Tim before? Wow. Look, I'm a slacker compared to Tim. I look at Tim's story and I'm like, this guy's got it down. Tim decided that he wasn't going to be told that he can't do anything that he doesn't want to do, and his goal was to open up a business. So let me just show you a little bit about Tim's story.
I am Tim Harris. I am a restaurant owner in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a restaurant called Tim's Place. Having Down syndrome is the best thing ever. We are a gift to the world. We are more like than different. Tim's Place is so special because I give out those awesome free hugs. They are the best.
Growing up with Tim, I didn't really notice a difference until I was older. Tim was just a normal, everyday brother to me. There was no difference, and I think that helped him kind of grow and become what he is today.
I made so many friends in high school. They all loved me back. They crowned me homecoming king in my senior year. Homecoming king is the best. And I went to college in Eastern New Mexico University of Roswell. I studied food service, restaurant hosting, and office skills.
I feel like he's really kind of influenced how a lot of us live, us in the family. Just his spirit and his attitude towards just people. He's given dozens of hugs already today. I heard him say he's at 60 hugs.
I have an amazing life. I've been competing in Special Olympics for over 15 years now. I compete in basketball, hockey, volleyball, track and field, golf, and bowling. I have over 50 medals, way over 50, way more than Michael Phelps. My parents, family, friends, they supported me all the way. I do have Down syndrome. I am awesome.
We are working to break down barriers in society between Tim and people like Tim all around the world and the rest of the societies that they live in. We find that it's one of the last frontiers where there's a barrier in our society, where people are afraid to connect or engage because of fear, just fear of the unknown. So we are very, very motivated to do things to help break down those barriers.
I tell people with Down syndrome, people with disabilities to stay in school and get educated and get jobs or own their own business. I know they can. They are awesome. I know they can. If you can dream it, you can do it.
He had no fear of talking to anyone. He'd just go up and talk to any person, every person he saw as a friend. There was no one he disliked at first look. After high school, he got a job at another restaurant, and even there he was, before he owned Tim's Place, he was still the most outgoing person. He'd stand at the door, hold the door open, flex his muscles while he's holding the door open, and just saying hi with the biggest smile you could ever have.
There's a sign in the restaurant right in the front door. It says, "We're more like than different." It has pictures of me as a baby, really cute, a lot more cuter now. Oh yeah, I am attractive. I want to be married someday and be really happy and be a dad someday. I would love that. I am Tim Harris. I am the restaurant owner at Tim's Place, and I love Smile TV because I love to smile. If you can dream it, you can do it.
You know, Tim, we just saw, refused to be bucketed. It's not a bucket he created. It's a bucket that the typically abled created because they're running the world, because it makes their lives easier. That's not what we do. All means all. Freedom for everyone means freedom for everyone. It's astounding. My wife and I went out. We took the opportunity to run around Philadelphia yesterday because she would tell you that I'm completely a history nerd. And if you think about it, 1 mile away from where we're sitting here in 1775, the Continental Congress started off with a bang. And Thomas Jefferson wrote down, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And then within 12 years, in the same spot, in Constitution or Congress Hall, 12 years later when we were working on our Constitution, we did some crazy human math that said, you guys are all counted as one person, but you people over here are only counted as 3/5 of a person. I like to think that we've gotten way past divvying people up into fractions. I like to think that the math that we need to do to exploit all of the talent that's available to us in America, whether in the veteran community, the veterans with disabilities community, or the larger community of people with disabilities, I like to think that the math is 1 + 1 = 1 trillion. Point something. And I don't understand why we can't do that. When I see people like Allison, who working on the Hill, which, has anybody here worked on Capitol Hill before? I'm sorry. It's a nightmare. She runs into more walls than, I want to buy her an Iron Man suit because she needs it, and many others like Allison need it to start breaking down these barriers that say, well, what are you doing? Now, my friends would tell you that I'm an idealist, and that's certainly true. But I'm a realist too. Not everything happens tomorrow. So if I could leave you with just a couple of things today before we take your probably much wanted break after this little program. We have to make the business case for bringing more people with disabilities into a fully integrated workforce. But I think that we have to do it, in the context of bringing people along. I think business has an enormous role to play in building a just society. An enormous role. And I think that more and more CEOs, and thankfully CEOs with lots of market power, are starting to move us in that direction. But we still need many, many, many more businesses to join us. You can't claim to be an integral part of a community if you haven't integrated the entire community into your business. You just can't. It's a lie. It's not real. That's not the droids that you want. It's just not true. And how dare we, the royal we, not the people in this room, because you already get it, how dare we tell somebody else you're going to be confined to doing these sorts of things because we don't believe that you can do what you want to do. That's not what we do in America. It's not what we do. The balance that I think that all of you are going to have to achieve, all of us have to achieve as we leave here in a couple of days, is sometimes people need to be brought forward kicking and screaming, and sometimes we do a little mental judo. We sort of beautifully bring people along, and wow, I feel like this was my own idea. It's wonderful. So there's that balance, right? There's that balance of bringing people on kicking and screaming versus giving everybody a massage and a puppy and a flower all along the way. That's not for me to decide. That's for all of you to decide based on the constituencies that you serve and with whom you deal to further strengthen. I wanted to say strengthen the rights. No. Look, everybody should be free to do what they want. How about that? Welcome. That's it. You should be free to do what you want. And for goodness gracious, if you give somebody a job and they're doing the same work as somebody else, but you don't pay them the same amount of money, man, we should be having a community meeting about that, right? Unfair. Not going to have it. Can't do it. We just have to make a whole bunch of noise. In 1973, Ursula Le Guin wrote a short story called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Has anybody read the short story? I see like one hand. Oh, and Allison, because I sent it to her. If you do nothing else, Google it tonight when you've got nothing to do. Google it. It's about a 10-minute read. It's a story about a town called Omelas. And the description of Omelas is that it's a wonderfully happy place. And then on a particular day, they describe people attending horse races and drinking beer. Nobody's super rich, but certainly nobody is in poverty. Everybody is just generally happy. They don't have too many worries, and there's not a whole bunch of stress. And you think to yourself, this is a place that I'd love to live. I, too, would like to live in Mayberry. But then the story goes on to tell you that there's a bargain been made, and that in the basement of one of the buildings in Omelas is a small broom closet. And in that broom closet is a 10-year-old child. And Omelas's happiness depends on the child in the broom closet's tragedy. Depends on that person's suffering. Now, the child's been in there for a while, and it used to cry out when somebody would open the door to check on it and say, please, I'll be good. I won't do it again. I will be good. But as the years passed by, that voice became softer and softer. And the story actually says that the child became enfeebled. But they can't tell if it's because they were born with a disability or because of being forced to sleep and stay in a broom closet for its life, it acquired this disability. And every time somebody in Omelas turns 18 years old, they have to go and see the child. Most people see it, feel sorry, maybe even cry a little bit, but then they close the door and they walk home. Is that what we're doing today? Is that what we've done? Have we just said, oh, pass the peas? Is that what we've done? Because if it is, I don't want to be a part of it. The story goes on to talk about those people who finally walk away from Omelas. They walk to a place that's not described. We don't know where they're going, but they've just agreed that they can't have the joy in their lives dependent upon the suffering of a child. A child that we could have helped. I say that we all become those who walked away from Omalas. I encourage you to read the story. It's a great story. Work is dignity, work is independence, and work is for everyone at a fair wage. I know you all know that, but it made me feel a whole bunch better just saying it out loud to you. You're amazing people. Congratulations on being at your national conference. Congratulations on working as hard as you do. And do not ever, ever, ever give up. And if you want to pick up the phone and call me, we'll come join the fight as well. Thanks so much.